right. We're just 2 minutes away from the start of Northwest Event Show climbing the technology tower.
Like, why can't I hear me? You know, like I'm not on mute or nothing. Like, I don't get it. You know that?
Oh, hey everybody. Ryan Reynolds here. Don't I look fantastic? Anyway, I have some home videos I want to share.
Yes. We're just moments away from climbing the technology tower. Better change the background. Oh, there it is.
Hey, I know the countdown's on, and we're about to start climbing the technology tower, but I don't see a tower. I just see my own face.
I better not hear any vacuums on an unmuted microphone, or I will find you, and I will mute you.
Like, maybe we could turn on, like, subtitles or something so you understand me. Hey, look at that! There they go!
Ryan, there's only 1 minute until the show.
Don't worry. That's plenty of time. Here's me at the Grand Canyon. Aren't I hot?
Ah, yes. We've climbed the technology tower all the way to space now. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Space.
Hey, if I don't find the technology tower, can I climb my fence? Because I totally got a fence. I can climb a fence.
Uh-oh. 5, 4, 3, 2.
What an awesome opening. I hope everybody got a kick out of that the way that I did. Welcome, everyone, to the Northwest Event Show, and thank you all for tuning in. This is an incredible series, and this is our third session. Through 2020 and into the future, with a plethora of technology, there's going to be so many options for any online event planner. How is this disrupting and shaping the events in 2021 and beyond? We're going to talk about that today. So we want you to sit back, listen, learn, and even network with the Northwest events community, your colleagues, and the industry experts. Now, before we get started, I do want to give thanks to several sponsors. 425 Business, EVO3 Marketing, a brand solution, Project Bionic, Red Element Studios, we couldn't do this without you, Eleanos Greek Yogurt, Sound South Magazine, and Seattle Chocolate. Last but certainly not least, the Search Foundation. And that leads me to the question you're probably asking, who's this guy and why am I here? My name is Patrick McMichael with Denon & Doyle. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Search Foundation and Chair of our Crisis Relief Committee. It is an unpaid job, the hardest I have, but one that I would not give up for anything. The Northwest Event Show has been kind enough to support Search, and we have a text to donate campaign. We've been lucky enough to partner with EVO3 to create a co-branded mug to help the Search Foundation raise money. The Search Foundation was founded back in 1997 and exists to assist special event professionals, meeting professionals, and anyone within the hospitality industry. They may be faced with a life-threatening crisis, a sudden accident, or even a natural disaster. We're here to help. So today, when you donate $50 or more, you will receive a complimentary gift in the form of this incredible mug on behalf of Northwest Event Show, EVO3, and the Search Foundation. Thank you all so much for the support. And to each and every one of those speakers out there, don't worry, you're all getting a free mug. Now listen, I said $50 or more and you get a mug, and you will, but every penny counts. It goes to the right place. So if you only have $5, if you only have $10, please do anything you can to give. We truly, truly appreciate it. Now, I have been given the privilege and the honor of introducing your moderator today, Adam Knight. Adam Knight is the founder and production director with Red Element Studios. Red Element Studios is a video production and live streaming and so much more than that. This year, they have been especially busy, as you can imagine, as they've helped to guide their clients and navigate the various different online platforms. There is no better person than Adam to take us through this third session in the series. Adam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the Northwest Event Show bringing on myself and Red Element Studios to help put on these events. We've been a part of the previous two. We're excited to do this one, and we're excited to do the next one in January. So thank you very much for the support from the Search Foundation. I hope you're all able to support them. And we're just excited to kick this off today. We have an incredible list of panelists here who are going to help us kind of untangle the web of online virtual platforms. And I don't want to waste any time. I want to get right into it. So I want to start off and introduce our panelists. First, we have Hillary Laney. She is the CEO and owner of Evia. We have Thomas Iwasaki, Senior Vice President of Product and Marketing for Brand Live. We have Billy McGee, Account Executive with Hub, and Jordan Schwartz, the founder of Pathable. All of these guests have really, really powerful platforms and technology that they use to make events and virtual events possible, both in the completely virtual world and in the hybrid world and in the in-person world. They're all spanning all of these things. So we're really excited to have them. And I want to kick off today by just doing kind of a 2-minute intro with each one of them. So I think we can start with Hillary. Hillary, if you could just give us kind of an overview. What is Evia, and give us kind of the overview.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to be here speaking with your audience today. So at Evia, we've actually been producing virtual and hybrid events for about 27 years. And, in the hybrid space, we were actually the crew on site working with our customers to take what was happening in the content side of things, all the breakouts, keynotes, and making that available to a virtual audience. And we primarily were working with, enterprise technology companies, some, Microsoft, Salesforce, Amazon, Tableau, just to name a few. And in this space, we were also building, we started with DVDs and CD sets early on. And, when YouTube launched, it opened up the door for us to be able to start distributing online in a faster amount of time. And so with these enterprise clients, they actually, were able to pay us to build these custom online solutions so that their event audiences could come in with a fully branded experience, consume all the content, and have access to that. So I would say probably right around between 2010, 2015, we started toying with the idea of building our own product. And we started development on that in 2015. And we kind of anticipated about a 10-year life cycle on that, where by the time we reached the end of our roadmap, thinking that by the time 2025 rolled around, a majority of the industry would be in this space and implementing virtual deliverables in all their events. And obviously, this came pretty fast in 2020. So, we're fortunate that we've got some products that are helping our customers stay relevant in this space and continue to produce events. So really, we're kind of services on the back end, helping our customers produce the sessions and get their content available. And then we have our platform that we started building, and it allows for chat and polling. We've got some engagement functionality, but really the focus is the content and the sessions that take place within that platform. We also have our Evia Player Live and Evia Player On Demand, and both of those allow for real-time captions. We've got smart content, which is searchable. It's got multi-language capabilities. It's targeted, and those players are both available in our platform. And then we've got them that are embeddable. So I'm excited to be here and have this conversation. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like for Evia, the future came early, and I think that may be one of the themes for all of us, right? And especially event planners who are maybe here today watching, kind of trying to figure out what to do with this future that landed on their doorstep. So thanks for the overview. Next, I want to go to Thomas Iwasaki with Brand Live. Thomas?
And excited to be here with you all today, sharing a bit of perspective from Brand Live. Brand Live is a virtual events platform that is 10 years old now. And similar to Hillary's comment, the future has accelerated for us quite a bit this year. Brand Live got its start providing a general purpose virtual event platform for global brands. The need for virtual really arose from the fact that these brands were broadcasting to audiences across continents, and it wasn't always possible to aggregate everyone in one place. So we built our business primarily on the needs of large brands and their global broadcast use cases, things like launching products, training remote sales teams, hosting large commerce events. And so, we've had a lot of experience solving for enterprise customers and doing bespoke virtual events. And, when things started to, or when we started to face business restrictions in February of this year, we kind of realized that just based on the inbound interest we were starting to see, the platform could serve a much larger audience and customer base. And so we've opened up the platform to all kinds of use cases this year, everything from Sunday church service to 100,000 person political fundraising events. And so it's been really exciting to just get a broad look at everything that's happening in the virtual space this year. And Brand Live has been fortunate and lucky to support all sorts of organizations broadcasting their most important messages in a virtual format. I'd say the big takeaway from the Brand Live platform is, we are really designed for your big key moments, your most important moments, the things that you want to stand out from Zoom, the things that you want to dress up, stand out, and kind of show off. Fortunately, we've had the history of working with brands who are quite demanding in their ability to create a visual experience and a video production experience that is quite elevated. And so we are working to make sure that is available and accessible to all of our customers.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like a high-end experience. And I learned about Brand Live only a few months ago, but was immediately intrigued. So I'm excited to learn more today. Next up, we've got Billy McGee from Hub. Billy, tell us about Hub.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hub is probably one of the most versatile virtual event platforms that has a history for both in-person and hybrid events. We bring together both the brand of corporate events as well as associations with power and immersive experiences. And these experiences range from the educational sessions to managing one-on-one meetings to having virtual booths. Really everything about an event has been thought through in part because of our founder, Ali. She is an inspiration because she's an event planner and she sees event managers as the heroes that we seek to help elevate. With her own company, Dynamic Events, she decided to make Hub as a technology platform to help them deal with, as many of you know, the challenges related to managing an event through spreadsheets or disparate tools. And so she set in motion to build Hub so that we can have all of the different tools talking to one another. You can have a single place where you can control to build all of the event content management tools, and ultimately an attendee portal, which over time has evolved into the full virtual event platform. It all started with working with some top corporate companies, Microsoft and Tableau, and partnering with incredible companies like Evia. So we work with some of the best companies in streaming, as well as working with other kind of interesting tools. So we work with like Snapbar for our selfie photos in virtual events. And we have the baseline to be able to help manage the event so that you can have your custom branding, event automation, and powerful insights. It's been a pretty incredible journey. We've done to date well over 150 virtual events in only the last 6 months. And we see this as a tide that's going to continue into the future, as many planners have recognized that there's an untapped audience that can actually farther extend the range of their events, help and actually help their bottom line.
Got it. So it seems like integrations and collaborations and thinking about multiple different platforms is, at least in my experience, has been really important in this year, and it sounds like Hub is no exception. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
And we've got questions about that later on. We're going to dig into about integrations. But let's move to Jordan Schwartz. Jordan, tell us about Pathable and what it's all about.
Sure. Yeah, great to be here. So I founded Pathable in 2008. And I mean, I'll say first off, it's a virtual and hybrid event platform with a mobile event experience. for meetings of all types. But when we started, we were trying to solve the problem of networking at events. I had been, previous to this, I was at Microsoft. I was leading teams in social areas and kind of building internet experiences. And I would go to conferences, and I was so excited to meet the other leaders of tomorrow or whatever. And I'd be in this room of 1,000 people. And it was always felt like kind of a wasted opportunity. I would get my a badge and maybe one drink ticket too many, and I was supposed to go network. And I'm a sociable guy. I would end up talking to whoever was next to me in the buffet line, and I'd end up making some connections. But I knew that the power of computers and software and the internet should allow for much greater relationship building and networking experiences. And so we set out with Pathable to solve that problem, to create ways for people to have before, during, and after experiences at events where they could not only consume the educational content, but meet their fellow attendees and build relationships with colleagues, peers, vendors, customers, employees, employers, whoever they wanted to. And so when COVID hit, things really took off because we have this before, during, and after experience. And so I think what sets the Pathable experience apart from a number of other providers or where we might be uniquely appropriate is for events that are looking for that relationship building. And we know that the reason that many people go to events is for the networking experience, for not just hosted buyer or appointments, pre-scheduled appointments, which we support, but for those hallway experiences, for the lunch table experiences where you run into somebody, you meet a new colleague, you learn something, you build a relationship. And so that's what we're trying to do with the Pathable virtual and hybrid event platform, is to build a platform that that enables in the virtual world some of that value that you get from in-person networking, and in the hybrid world makes that experience even better.
Great. Yeah, I know that a lot of event planners are figuring out, okay, how do we engage our audience? And it sounds like you've been thinking about those connections for a decade or more. So glad to have you here. I'll take a moment now and give you a brief background on Red Element Studios, so you have that context. Red Element is a company that I started 10 years ago, and we're a video production company. And that can mean a couple of different things. We really have two sides to our business. So on the one side, we produce, shoot, and edit cinematic and engaging content. And that's part of our kind of storytelling bent, and that's a core to who we are. And on the other side, we execute live events. So we are sort of the creative and technical consultants to our clients who are trying to figure out how to take their in-person event to a virtual one, especially this year. And we've had the opportunity this year to work with dozens of clients. It's been quite exciting and busy and challenging and all of it. But core to this year has been figuring out the virtual event. And we've really been lucky to be able to help a lot of nonprofits get their galas and fundraisers virtual so they can continue to make money. And on the corporate side, we've been doing a lot of live streams, all the way up to a 6-camera, multi-camera set with professional lighting, to a fully remote experience similar to this one where none of us are in the same room. So I'm really excited to be here with all of these virtual event leaders because we're platform agnostic, right? We're more like a consultants and a service company. So I think the fit is a good fit. So I'm glad to have everyone here. I now want to jump into a series of questions. And I hope that some of these questions are really going to elicit some answers that our audience wants to hear. Of course, we'll be taking your questions as well. So feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll be gathering those. But I want to start off, this is a burning question of mine for everyone. I'm going to kind of just round robin this one. What's your number one piece of advice for event professionals who are embracing online platforms for the first time? they're learning about it this year, right? Like everybody. But maybe in, let's say, March of 2021, there's a big event. They know it's got to be virtual, and they're still trying to figure out how to make it happen. What's your number one piece of advice? Who wants to kick that off?
I can
Go
start.
ahead. Oh,
Great.
Go
Let's
for it.
start with Hillary.
I'll just real quick, I think, do your homework. I mean, as we've just discovered through the last part of this, there's so many options out there, and each one has a really great benefit to it. So it's kind of knowing your goal and what you're trying to achieve, what the big focus is, and then, yeah, go out and explore and see what options are out there.
Great. Thank you. Was it Jordan? Or Thomas?
No, but I will, if you don't mind. So I would say that stick to the basics of humanity. So all the reasons that someone went to your in-person event, it all still applies. When you make that list of goals, and when we think about it, we think it's education, it's networking, and there's commerce, trade show, kind of those vendor relationships. And you want to think about how are you delivering value for your attendees for each one of those goals. And I think often people will make the mistake of putting the technology decision first, like what am I going to use Zoom? Am I going to use this? Am I going to use that? Focus on the experience you want to deliver and the value you want to deliver, and then let the technology decisions flow from that.
Great.
All right,
Thomas,
now I'll take on that. My comment here relates to the content at your event. I think it's important to rethink the nature of the content and the format of the content. User behaviors and attendee behaviors in a virtual format are going to differ quite a bit from full day in-person experiences. Just the consumption of content and the way that happens, and the type of retention you're able to drive in a virtual format should cause you to rethink how you put together the content that structures your event. You might go from a single day 8-hour summit to something that looks more like a recurring series or a week-long, once-a-day type engagement. But I think that's been a big shift for a lot of the events that have come on to Brand Live, is reimagining the best way to drive full engagement in a virtual format versus when you've got butts in seats.
Got it. So one example you've given is kind of shorten the content or make it more episodic. Have you seen other examples of kind of the changing of the types of content?
I mean, that's the primary one, right? Nobody is going to necessarily hit 4 back-to-back 2-hour-long sessions in a networking period. Just kind of breaking things up into more manageable chunks and acknowledging that people have busy schedules. They're no longer booking 2 of their days to come to your event. So giving them multiple chances to access the content as well, whether that's replays or multiple shots at the live experience.
Great. Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind, if I can just tag on to that a little bit, I think the idea, something that a lot of us have recognized is that the way that people consume content online is different than the way that they consume content in person. And so this idea of, I'm going to pack 8 hours a day of content for 3 straight days, like everybody's kind of nodding, going, yeah, that's it. We don't do that anymore. But there's kind of a corollary to that, in that we have some new freedoms. So it's not just that the way of doing things that we did when we did them in person, we can't do them online. We have new ways of doing things online that we couldn't do in person. So for example, for an in-person event, I've got to rent out a space, and I have limited time in that space. I've got to put up my booths and my banners and fly my speakers in. And so I'm restricted in some ways to how I structure my event by these constraints of putting an event on at a place and time. But when you remove that constraint, you really get the opportunity to rethink how you do things. And so what we're seeing a lot of our clients do is spreading content out over weeks or even months. And I mean, it's you start to stretch the definition of event, but it doesn't matter, right? Because you're still thinking about those fundamental goals of education, networking, and commerce relationships. And if you serve those goals, does it matter if it's an event or a year-round community?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, let
It's
me.
part of the great reimagining, I guess. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I'll jump on what everyone just said here. I think and starting with do your homework. I think that the number one key when you're considering a virtual event is what's involved in actually pulling it off. Because it's one thing to imagine all of these things, and choosing technology is actually pretty early in that decision-making process, as well as the format of the type of sessions you're hosting. Are they going to be live with live Q&A, or are you going to move in the direction of doing pre-record and then having chat rooms that are live where all the attendees are there? We worked with an event, Bio, where Dr. Fauci was the keynote and Evia actually produced it, and it was an incredible moment. And during that conference, a significant number of these sessions really resembled the equivalent of what we saw on television, of CNN interviews or other types of news stations, where people are broadcasting from their offices and in their homes. This is actually aligned with the way we're consuming media right now. I mean, this is a world we're all existing in. The key that I would say is leveraging on the idea of, if you're going to educate, if you have a series of goals that are why you're having the event, is it to drive business? Is it a combination of both? These are all the elements that you have to think about, and then you have to realize your recipe for success, your checklist of things to do, is different. You may not have to worry about tablecloths and flowers, but you do have to start thinking about, lighting and microphones. So there's a different type of set of rules, and that's one of the reasons why we like to come together here and share that. I would also suggest that the day-long event is not to say that you can't do it. In fact, for a lot of education, that's why these events exist, right? You want to come in and you want to get your educational hours, for example, if it's an association, or you're taking one day away to kind of really focus on this product or community or group. And I think that what you have to recognize is, instead of cordoning off people and velvet ropes moving the crowd, you now have to kind of create magnets of attention and recognize that we do consume videos kind of at different times and in different ways. So there's a lot of elements. Making sure that you understand how to pull it all off, that's really the key. That's probably the big key.
Great.
And to recognize, kind of to Billy's point about production services, and what you're seeing right now, where right now there's 5 of us on the screen, but when one person is talking, they come forward. And there's someone behind this, and I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman's name who's running the vMix board.
His name is
but
Hans.
that's a professional service that leads to a quality experience that goes beyond what the technology itself can provide. It's and so lining up all of those pieces, I think, is key.
Yeah, there's a big gap, right? You've lined up all of your technology, and what do you actually put on the screen? And one of the things we've been working with a lot of clients on is, can we have fun? Can we, let's whip out a guitar and do a song? I mean, there are so many sessions and content that is inherently a little bit tiring or uninteresting at times, or maybe super niche that's only interesting for like a certain number of people. But I think it's really important from like a content strategy side to be thinking a lot about energy and fun and music. And we even did one nonprofit fundraising event where like an impromptu dance party kind of started, and people were on the chat saying, suggesting songs. And then we were like quickly finding them and playing them, and people on the stage would do a little dance. And it was very silly, but it was a reminder that we have to keep things light and fun, and we can also get to the kind of meaty content as well. All right, I want to move on to the next question. We've all been pretty busy. I wager to say all of us have been pretty busy this year with lots of these events. What is the biggest surprise that you've seen from your customers? A surprise use case or a surprise expectation that they had? Something you weren't really expecting coming down. Like maybe we just thought, oh, it's going to get busier. That's great. But then something maybe threw you for a loop. What were the surprises? Anyone want to kick that one off?
I'll start again because I just had like this vision. So it was very, very early on. But the first, when you say it that way, what was a surprise? You know, as I mentioned in my intro, we came from a space where content was king. And before we went virtual, the engagement stuff all needed to happen on site, right? And so where we came into play was taking the ROI and the value out of the content that they'd invested so much into, and how do they get a wider audience, more education, more awareness of what's going on. So that has been our focus, I mean, forever. And we got into this virtual space and, you know, we started getting inundated with requests and calls. And as we're having conversations with customers, they just wanted the face-to-face, like, how do we just get people to talk to each other? Like, we want our attendees to be able to jump into a face-to-face and, you know, kind of like a Zoom experience. That was always kind of the lingo that was being used in the beginning was, you know, I want it to be an event, but I also want it to have sort of that Zoom one-on-one. And from where we sit, you know, my team and I just remember we were like, what, just get on Zoom then. Like, where, you know, where's this coming from? And it was just such a mindset shift. And, you know, it obviously triggered we had to rethink our strategy and the platform that we had available and all the engagement and where we had gaps and things that we needed to build into it. But, you know, when I put myself back in that moment of trying to really transition into this new environment, there is a difference between the hybrid and the virtual. It's a different strategy. It's, you know, you've got to think about things differently because everybody's remote. And so you've got to think about how are you bringing them together.
Yeah, there's a demand for audience engagement for sure. What other surprises have popped up?
I was talking to one of my clients recently, and they were talking about how during one of their educational sessions in the chat rooms, people were essentially creating their own Zoom experiences off-site. And the event planners were kind of going to the event owner and saying, "Oh my God, we got this huge problem. People are leaving our seminars to have these, you know, off-site Zoom meetings. What are we going to do?" And I mean, this is kind of to Hillary's point. His reaction was, "That's great. Like, we're providing a place for people to come together and meet with each other." And if they're using their own tools to do that, if they're using our tools to do that, it doesn't matter. We're delivering value. And so I just think that kind of very much supports what Hillary was talking about in terms of that surprise.
Yeah, for sure. One more on this.
Yeah, I can talk to a bit of surprise that we worked through early on this year related to the video production itself. You know, most of events historically on Brand Live have been streamed live from a studio or on site with the camera crew and folks that are quite technical and have the know-how to put together something that looks polished. This year, we are working with buyers who are non-technical, typically seated in marketing departments, and being asked to produce content in an entirely new fashion. And so we actually have a small production services team within Brand Live. And so we sat down at the start of the year and started to map kind of the asks we were getting and realized that there wasn't really a good solution to produce an elevated video feed, something that really stands out versus a Zoom meeting if you're a non-technical user. And so we've invested quite a bit, and it all ended up in a tool called Green Room, which is the video production tool that integrates with Brand Live's virtual event platforms. But just to tie it back, the production of content with remote producers remote presenters and a remote producer has put people into a whole new game. And it's no longer kind of coordinating, hey, who's on stage when. It's a whole new exercise. And so I think be aware before you go in that rehearsals are a must, tech checks are a must, and that workflow is something that really, really needs attention.
Right. Great. All right, well, here's another question. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that most, I'd say 99% of successful events are leveraging multiple different platforms and technology, right? So maybe, for example, this event today, we're using a platform called vMix, we're using Vimeo Live, we're using Squarespace, there might be some other back-end things as well. It's never just one solution. I think sometimes it can get close with sort of a one-stop shop, but there's always some amount of integration and different vendors. I'm curious, on each of your platforms, what are the most popular integrations that you're seeing? Whether that's sort of a technical, almost like an API integration on a site, or an integration in the sense of a collaboration. So, for example, a production company producing content that then gets streamed via your platform. What types of coming together are you seeing? Let's kick it off with Billy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, integrations, as I said, is a big theme of what Hub is all about. We say play well with others because Hub is designed initially as an event content management tool that has grown into a full virtual event platform. And it starts with having video conferencing sessions, so leveraging scalable Zoom licenses as well as Teams. We work with Microsoft, so of course having a full integration with their streaming tools is critical for their events. And that actually was an origin of that beginning. We also work with another Seattle company, Event Core. They're our deep registration provider, but there's many other registration providers like Cvent and Swoogo and Bizaboo and others that we're also partners with. So we really understand that different event planners have different budgets, have different tools, and we recognize those tools go together. I mentioned Snapbar, really great tool to use for the virtual selfies. And then there's also goes into further with poster sessions or scientific meetings that have other elements. Now, we've also built a variety of tools ourselves because we'd integrated with some tools that maybe weren't as ideal. So our brainstorming tool, which is designed for birds of a feather meetings so that attendees can create sessions and have conversations, is key. But what we try to do with our integrations and our deep SSO capability is to make it really as seamless as possible so that some person can log into the virtual event and then all of these tools are working without really seeing the technology handshake. We're trying to make that seamless on the back end. And that makes the experience that much better.
Got it. Yeah, Billy, are a lot of your customers first coming to you and saying, hey, what other services should we engage here to make the best experience? Or are they getting referred to you by another company that they've gone to first? Or is it both?
It really depends. I love it when we get referrals. I mean, it's my favorite type of opening is when someone either has an experience with our platform or recommended our platform. I would say that it is a combination, though, of a variety of them. Right now, there's so many planners coming from all different areas, and some of them have long-term contracts with other tools. So registration is a really good example. Registration is typically the kind of an agreement where you may have something already in place, and it's critical for them to figure out a way to make that work with them. So I would say that with some tools, and then other times they'll bring tools to the table. For example, we're going to be using Remo later today, and we've already started discussions with them because it's a pretty cool platform, and we really like those kinds of different elements as well. So these are examples of where sometimes we're introduced by the customer, and sometimes we introduce the customer to these tools.
Great. I see we have a couple of questions starting to come in. We'll get to those in a little bit, but keep sending those questions. Put the questions in the chat. Maybe our discussion so far is igniting something within you. Let's keep going on this question, though, about integrations. Does someone else have a comment on that?
Yeah, I can jump in from a interpretation of like a pure tech platform integration perspective. So like you mentioned, On the back end, most Brand Live events we see today are integrated with some form of CRM, so that attendee data can flow into the CRM to power ongoing marketing comms, or they can import audiences that they house in other platforms. So that's a very common use case, and we've worked to support as many of those platforms as we can. On the event experience itself, the sky is the limit, really. Brand Live is designed to support embeds of third-party tools and widgets, and that kind of used to be a thing that we had in our back pockets. This year, we've seen everybody go crazy with it. The big common one, though, are donation widgets, so powering fundraisers and taking donations directly in your event, social walls, and networking tools. I think we've seen Remo actually integrated into several Brand Live events at this point. But Brand Live being a general platform, we see a lot of use case specific integrations happening on the front end.
Great. And I think Jordan had something as well.
Yeah, it's kind of echoing a lot of what's been said. Certainly registration systems. Pathable recently joined the community brands family. So integrate, which we already had integrations with, and now we're kind of superpowering integrations with association management systems like Nimble AMS and Your Membership and NetForum, with their learning management systems like Freestone, Crowd Wisdom. So pushing back CEU and CME credit information. So when somebody watches a session in the Pathable platform, that gets tracked for their continuing education credits. We're seeing integrations with the giving tools, like Thomas mentioned, for GiveSmart. And the brands that I mentioned are now all part of the same company that we are, the community brands. But we have, literally dozens of integrations with all of these verticals, because I think from the event planner's perspective, they're trying to create a seamless experience that, without regard for where one technology platform provider begins and the other one ends. They need to provide credits, right, or they need to provide ongoing marketing.
Yeah, this is one of the great challenges for event planners right now. Is it's not just like a menu of different technology providers and you choose one. It's like you have to find a bunch of them sometimes and make sure that they integrate. And so it sounds like everyone here today, though, is part of a service or platform that can be sort of that starting point. And then from there, other services can be recommended and integrated in. Hillary, do you have anything on this point before we move on?
Yeah, I just, in terms of the integrations, Evia platform is very consistent with what everyone else on this call has said. But one thing I would like to call out is that, I think a lot of planners that I've talked with, this can be a really intimidating conversation, because the idea of bringing different technologies together, things can go wrong, right, from a technology perspective. And so I just would encourage, people listening right now to be open-minded and know that, like, a lot of advancements and growth has happened in this whole integration space. I think it's been incredible to see all these different solutions work hard as teams to come together and figure out what works best and how do we bring those together. And I see in the future, it's just going to get stronger. And I can't help but relate it. When you go on site and you have an event, you're bringing together the catering vendor, the venue, right? But we've been doing that for so long that it just works and everyone knows how to do it. And so we're still kind of in that growth phase, I think, of this new world of just how does it all connect and work together and what's the best way to do it. But I think the best solutions are when, the best, when the provider who really specializes in something partners with another one and we just nail it together. It's just the best. I think that's the win-win situation, in my opinion.
Yes, I concur. I'll bet all of us can agree on that. It's like when there's a right fit of partners, it feels great and things run smoothly. Okay, let's move on to another question. Let's do kind of a case study thing. So again, we'll just go round robin really quick. What was one event this year that you thought was particularly creative or engaging or leveraged your platform in a really powerful way? Give us just a quick example of a client you worked with specifically in 2020. And let's just start with Jordan.
I guess Fortive was one of our clients, and they did a great job of moving people between kind of small group networking and larger groups, and then back into new groups of small group networking. And they were, I mean, this was apparently an extension of what they had done in person, where they had small groups gather according to interest areas, and then they'd regroup. I don't know how they pulled this off in person because of the speed with which they turned people over. I mean, the logistical challenges of moving people around was amazing. And it was really impressive to see them pull it off as well in the virtual world.
Cool. It is indeed a small world. Fortive is one of our clients as well, and we are on the more video production side for them, so we're shooting and editing videos for them, and I'm really glad you got to work with them. Let's pop over to Billy.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm going to actually have two. One I have to talk about is Untethered, and Untethered is one that we partnered with Evia on for doing our live streaming. Untethered was Ali's vision, but along with Dynamic Events and others, coming together very early in COVID to say, how can we make a virtual event that doesn't suck? And Untethered came together with all the intelligence and all the creativity of all the planners. There's probably planners in the audience right now that attended Untethered. We had not only all these great educational sessions and live sessions and SimiLive, and we basically told the world we're experimenting with everything because we want to understand. We had so many planners come to us saying, because we had a full day of events and we were able to show that, you know, you can have a 3 to 4 day event and people will come in and out. People will all of a sudden show up to a session and then they may disappear and come back later for the Netflix party at night or the pizza party, or they're going to come in for the early sessions and then come back and watch another session on demand. And we've kind of shown we had 4,500 planners together. Later, that inspired another event, which was interesting because we were also able to create custom environments. And it was with Amazon here in the Northwest, of course. They sponsored an event called DevCon that was intended to have as their number one sort of experience, a re-showing of Jurassic Park, 30th year anniversary. And they were going to rent a movie theater, and it was going to be an awesome experience. And guess what? You know, COVID changes everything. But they used our platform to create an immersive experience as though you were in the movie. And then they actually were able to show the movie. And although people watched it home from Netflix, they were able to experience it. And the reaction from the developer community, who this was, you know, a lot of developers, they loved it. It was a really great way to pivot from what was an already amazing idea for a live event into a virtual event. And that's one thing that I would say, the creativity you have as a planner can actually still have a palette in a virtual world.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I will attest to that for sure. That as kind of, I guess, the folks who execute live events, we still very much rely on the creative and the vision from event planners and marketers and people who work within these organizations to actually kind of have those initial visions, and then people like us go off and figure out how to do it. So that's definitely been the case this year. Let's pop up to Hillary.
Sure. So, you know, where we specialize in is really that white glove service combined with the platform. And so I think one of the better examples of that was with a group, Kairos Ventures, a venture capital firm. And they host this event every year for their investors, and really high profile. They came to us, this was their first time going virtual, and they usually book a big venue down in Los Angeles. They have really high profile speakers, guest speakers who come for entertainment. And there's a lot at stake because, you know, it's a group of investors. So the ROI on this is huge. And this gal that we worked with on their side to help coordinate was just nervous. I mean, going virtual, right? You guys have all been through it. It's like doing it for the first time. You don't really know what to expect. And so it just was a great, our team really prides ourselves in these projects because these are the ones where we can take a situation that would otherwise be really stressful and nerve-wracking, and not really, knowing what the end result is going to be like. And they're able to see it in our platform. The focus was on the sessions, on the content. We were able to brand it for them and just give a really high quality experience. And the feedback we got was just that, the calmness of our team and the support that we gave behind the scenes just kind of put them at ease. So those are the projects that I end up being really proud of because we are just like so customer service focused that it was great to have that. So
Awesome. That sounds like a really successful event. And I will say it is probably a part of all of our jobs to help folks feel comfortable with technology. There's a lot of, well, they have no choice in 2020 and 2021 and beyond. Technology is here, but there's this slow adoption. And of course it's sped up, but that's a big part of all of what we do, right? Is to help people feel comfortable with the different technology platforms and let them know it's okay and it's going to work. And your attendees are going to get the message across. All right, let's finish this question up with Thomas.
Cool. I can be quick so we can get to some audience questions. I think the most fun and notable events that have happened in Brand Live recently were a lot of the script readings that some of the political parties put forth. So we actually debuted the script reading event type, I guess, with the Princess Bride script read a couple months ago. Oh, cool. And that event format sort of caught fire from there. And so we went on to provide a platform for several other script reads and cast reunions. And those things ended up being really fun. Some of the highest attendance that we've seen on the platform, but we felt really lucky to be able to host those.
That's awesome. Glad you were a part of that. Okay, let's pop to one of our questions from the audience. Hybrid events are predicted to be one of the big event trends in the next few years. Any ideas on how to merge these two together, a live in-person event with a virtual online component? We've probably already been thinking about this, and it's probably already happening on your platforms, but what advice do you have for folks who are attempting to do a hybrid event?
I can give it a shot first. Sure. I think, yeah, it's a really good question. I don't think there's one answer, right? It probably depends on your audience and the goals of your event, but we've been trying to break this question down at Brand Live and thinking about it. When we get back to a world of in-person events, the digital attendee is not going to go away. It's a learned behavior, and we now have a new type of attendee that's going to be coming to your event, and that attendee is coming for a different reason. We tend to think that most of the social activity and value is probably going to be concentrated in that in-person format, but the information and the pure content and education value is really where the focus of that digital attendee are going to lie. And so we've been trying to feel out what that means from a platform perspective, and we do feel like the virtual format will persist even in a post-COVID world, and really it's going to be tailored for that attendee who's coming for the information, coming for the education and the content.
Mm-hmm. Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Who else has something on that topic?
Well, here at Hub, our origin story was around hybrid events. So with Microsoft in particular, they had us building the attendee portal for what at the time they called remote attendees. So these are attendees that had bought tickets, but weren't able to actually attend the live event. 80% of the attendees are attendee, or even 90% were actually going to the event. It was really just for that kind of outside circle of people that for whatever reason couldn't go. And so you wanted to be able to have live streaming ability. So one of the things you want to think about is, can your platform handle live streaming from different tools? Because once you transfer to in-person, live streaming will then all of a sudden go back into the hotels and the facilities, right? As opposed to working from computers at home. Then you also we created our SimuLive tool because Microsoft as a company even realized it's very expensive to do live stream, or at least it was 4 or 5 years ago, and that's changing. And so we created the SimuLive, the ability to record and then play back later at a particular time. So now you're thinking about, well, maybe we're bifurcating some of the sessions where it's live for the in-person, but then there's a replaying of it that's semi-live for the remote attendees. So there's a lot of things that you want to think about, and one of the things is that really organizationally now your schedule gets even more kind of complex, and you need to think about it as as Thomas just mentioned, thinking about them almost as different types of attendees. It's like a merging of events, but I would say the future is kind of recognizing that these virtual attendees may be attending your event, may be attended virtually first. And then that is going to bring them into the inner circle of the live event.
Yeah, it changes even what we might see on the stage, right? It's when we're thinking about which are we designing for? Are we designing for the in-person event, or are we designing for the virtual one? Mm-hmm. There's usually one of those is probably going to come first, to your point. Who else has something on that topic?
I'm excited about now that the dam has broken around virtual, what that can mean, that how virtual and hybrid events can make in-person events better. So, for example, now that we're all used to sitting in front of a camera and talking to somebody remotely, how can that make the trade show experience better? And what we've seen is exhibitors at virtual trade shows have now embraced this value of being able to have experts online from their office without having to travel, available to talk to people during trade show hours or remotely. So does that mean that we'll see in-person exhibitor booths the ability to walk up to an iPad or a laptop and have an instant conversation with somebody back in the office with the expert from that exhibiting company? Or will we see the equivalent of social walls, where we can start to break that barrier between in-person attendees and remote attendees at hybrid events, and allow in-person attendees to walk up and have conversations with people who are remote, and have people who are remote be able to feel more like they're a part of that inner circle that Billy was talking about, and participate and communicate with people in person using all the tools that we've created.
Well, indeed, it is a brave new world, and this post-COVID world is something that all of us have our finger on the pulses of. So thanks, everyone, for being here. I want to wrap up here. We only have a couple more minutes, but I want to encourage viewers to reach out to the panelists. All the information's there on the website. Connect on LinkedIn, the various social medias. I can speak for myself, and I think I can probably speak for everyone here, that we are so happy to help any organization think through what the right solutions might be for their event. And as we discovered earlier, it's not just one platform or one service or one vendor that does it all. It's always going to be a collaboration for the very best events. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks again to our sponsors. That really helps pull this event together, and I'm glad we can all be here during these very strange times. And a quick reminder and a plug for the Search Foundation, doing really cool work for folks in the event industry who are going through tough times. So that text to donate information is there on the screen if you're able to do that. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, we have another one of these. The fourth in the series is on January 13th, and it is called Inspire to Grow. And I think the idea behind this is that for a lot of event professionals, 2020 was kind of a year of cocooning and kind of reevaluating and thinking. A lot of things are canceled or postponed. That means that 2021 is probably going to be a huge year of growth. And so I think that is really the topic of discussion for that one. So join us on January 13th for that. And then a final reminder that in just 2 minutes here at 11 a.m., our breakout session starts. And that is using Remo. And you should be able to find a link there on the page below the video player to join Remo. I think a couple of the folks who are here today in the panel are going to be on Remo, but also for you, it's for you to talk amongst each other, right? And get that networking and share ideas. I'm sure all of us have learned about various platforms, many of which we didn't have time to share today. So have fun with that. Thank you everybody for being here, and thank you so much to our panelists. Your time is very precious and we appreciate it. And we will catch you all next time. Thanks so much.